Hello, Eiffel Tower listeners. You know what you're listening to, don't you? It's the Eiffel Tower podcast, brought to you by Fat Tire Tours. That's how it's worked for the whole summer. Fat Tire Tours have been sponsoring this show. At the end of the episode, I'll talk to you a little bit about that in general and how your time is running out if you want to get that 10% discount on all of their bike tours around the entire world. Not just bikes either, segways, walking, and much more. But I'll talk to you at the end. Let's talk about today's episode. I've got a guest, Paris Adele. Paris, have you heard of her? Paris Adele? Not yet? Well, you're in for a treat. This is an Australian photographer who I've been following on Facebook for a really long time, and she caught my attention early on because not only does she take really cool pictures of Paris, but she's not a stranger to poking her head into, buildings where most people don't poke their head into, or going through an open courtyard. And she posts them with these wonderful stories that'll take you exactly to where she did it. She'll say it's on this street. She'll talk to you about what she found. She'll point out little details. And I think it's really nice, especially with so many Facebook accounts out there where they're just stealing each other's pictures and sort of curating accounts based on other people's stuff. So Paris Adele, she's an original. Follow her along on Facebook or parisadele.com. But we talk a little bit about this idea of capturing Paris. So if you also like taking photographs like she does, or like I do, then she gives a few of her tips. She points out some of her favorite places and explains her favorite place in Paris if she were to spend her last day here. But here we go for that episode. Hang around at the end. I'll read a little bit of Gmail as usual. And well, let's get into it. Adele, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
It's a very French name you've got.
It is.
Are you French deep down?
I'm not. In my heart, I am.
In your heart. I think there are a lot of people listening who can relate to that. But where are you from?
I'm originally from Melbourne in Australia.
Me too. I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia.
I thought you were from Perth.
Well, I did. I spent formative years in Perth, whatever formative years mean, but born in Melbourne.
Yeah, I was born, but then lived in Brisbane for a long time.
Right, okay. So we're from other sides of the country, so far away that if it was Europe, there'd be like 11 countries between us.
Yes.
But we're drawn together in this studio for our mutual love of Paris. And I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I love your stuff. I figured that today we could talk a little bit about this concept of capturing Paris. Not necessarily just by photos, but by stories. And I thought I'd start off by maybe you could explain a little bit about your site and what your goal is with that site.
Okay. Well, when I was 21, I backpacked, as Aussies do, around Europe. And when I left where I was working, a woman gave me two lovely gifts. One was a little white hand towel, with a koala on it, I still have today, and it's my travel buddy. And the other gift that she gave me was to tell me to look up, don't forget to look up, which I thought was a little bit nutty.
Yeah.
But
well, maybe to look out for the koalas.
Yeah, falling koalas out of a tree, and that was a great gift because there's so much that you see. People tend to look at eye level or in shop windows. And now some of my readers send me photos of things that they've discovered by looking up.
And that's especially true for Paris, right?
Yeah, very.
So what kind of things, imagine someone's listening now who's been to Paris. They're a bit of a shop window kind of person. Maybe they're even looking down, looking for whatever dogs have left behind. What are they missing out on?
Well, sculpture, large letters. I discovered that ex-prostitute parlours would have extra large letters.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it was to advertise that it was a place where you could go.
A brothel.
Yeah, a brothel.
Yeah.
So, and there's still a few of them about with these extra large and sometimes fancy numbers.
So you mean like if it was like, I don't even know what you mean. So you mean if something's like number 13 or something?
Yeah, so normally you would just have the white on blue plaque.
Yeah.
So there's one near Saint-Sulpice, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's on the street beside Saint-Sulpice, and it's quite elaborate, and it's got very large letters. It's on my blog.
Right. I'll link to that in the show notes below. But that's a pretty perfect example of the kind of stuff that you blog about. It's finding the stories of Paris, and often, especially on a very active and wonderful Facebook page, I must say, you tell stories through the pictures. So you'll have 10 pictures, if you've done that one as well on Facebook.
Yeah.
There'd be, so I was walking down the street the other day, I saw this large letter or a large number. I looked closer. Next picture. I found out what it is. Next picture. This is what it is. And you tell this kind of cool story. What I really like about it is there's so many people with Facebook pages and so on about Paris, all doing the same thing. Boring. But what you're doing is something really cool. But how do you, like, for example, that specific story, how did you find out it was related to prostitution?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a research junkie.
Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe I saw the number and then researched to find out why it was elaborate. To be honest, I can't remember.
Right.
I mean, I had a pile of books on Paris. I'm always looking for new things to find. Because I think my readers, like me, have been to Paris a lot of times, and there's only so many times that you can see Notre Dame or the Louvre or all of those main landmarks. So I'm always looking for little out-of-the-way places.
Yeah. And how do you find them? What's your secret? Now, I know you've got some secrets, and I know you're hesitant to share them.
I'm not revealing everything.
Well, you're going to reveal something, Adele. I'm going to get it out of you. But you're one of the sneakers that sneak in places,
sometimes it can just be that I love to get into courtyards.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah,
And
me too.
Sometimes I will just be standing outside because it has a glass door and you can see that there's a beautiful courtyard inside. And sometimes just one girl standing there on her own, they think that you want to come in and they might hold the door open for you.
Right.
One time I was in the 15th arrondissement photographing a building on Christmas morning, and I think maybe the Guardian was watching me.
Right.
And it had a beautiful hallway, and I was trying to get my camera in between the grill to take a photo, and he just came and turned all the lights on and let me in and said, come in, and walked away and left me.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Your method is better than mine. Mine, I wear a balaclava, go out the front and just wait.
Yeah, well, my advice is hide the camera and no click-clacky shoes.
Ah.
So if you're sneaking in, they don't hear.
Well, the click-clacky shoes isn't a problem for me, but hiding the camera, that's interesting. Do you have one of those big old...
No, I just have it in my camera bag.
Yeah.
And then I'll pull it out.
Do you think people don't want their places photographed?
Of course. Well, you're trespassing. I mean, it's their private property. So I think if you're quiet and respectful and, don't touch anything, then I think it's fine, I mean, I think Parisians are equally as inquisitive about seeing what lies behind carriage doors and beautiful courtyards.
What is it about the courtyards that you like so much?
I don't know. It's just they're all different. I mean, some of them are just cobblestones. I read somewhere that to look for each courtyard normally has one large cobblestone.
I read that too.
Yeah, for chopping wood.
Yeah, and you can see the axe marks
now I'm
on it
obsessed
sometimes.
finding them.
I've heard about that too. I never found it. I don't think I've ever found one.
I found one in the Marais.
Right, the Marais are very good for courtyards.
Yeah.
And some of them are open, like because they've converted them to shops or whatever, and you have to go into the courtyard building
if there's a business there, you can normally click in.
You know what I like is when you go into the courtyards, especially in the Marais, and you can look up at the houses and you can see everything about the history of Paris just in one block of apartments. So you can often see where the stables would have been because they've been converted into whatever, and then you can see like how the height of each level gets smaller all the way to the top. In the Marais is a perfect example like of squinting at Paris and figuring out what the stories used to be, don't you think? Do you have other favourite neighbourhoods?
I like the 9th as well. There's some beautiful architecture there. And, well, Montmartre.
Yeah.
But not with the tourists.
Too many tourists?
Yeah. I like to go there when it's, early morning or later on when it's quieter.
So what's the secret of, let's say you're going for a walk in Montmartre, there's a lot of tourists. Do you go specifically looking for a story, or are you just kind of flaneuring?
Well, lately I haven't, but usually I would anally make a list. So throughout the year, I would create a list of places I want to go, and then I would put it into arrondissements,
Sure.
and then put it on a map, and then I would follow my way of. But sometimes I would forget to add why I wanted to go to a certain address. I might be to see a door, and so I'd arrive there and think, okay, what is interesting about this building? Why am I here?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I used to be really anal about that, trying to cram as much as I possibly could into a day, so I could walk for 10 or 20 kilometres.
Goodness me! But that's so you're in an interesting situation. Is that over the years you've been based in Australia and coming here like a sponge and soaking up as much of Paris,
as I can.
and then going back home and sort of squeezing that sponge until it's dry again, and sharing it on your blog and your Facebook page, and then coming back here again to replenish that sponge. Is that difficult doing it like that?
No, I actually enjoy it, and I think it motivates me to get out. I don't have to sit on the computer for half the day thinking, what will I do, what will I go and see? I would have my little list printed out that I brought from Australia, and I would just grab the camera and walk out the door, and that would be it for the day.
And how do you build that list?
Just researching, reading books, looking at the internet, sometimes going onto Google Maps and going onto the Street View and, finding a door and think, oh, that's lovely, I'll add that to my list.
I'll go and wait out the front of that one. Yeah. What about this idea of capturing Paris? If you had to give tips to someone listening who has seen something really cool and they want to share that, maybe they're not so great at photography or telling stories, like, would you be able to give them any tips?
Possibly. I think I'm interested in detail. I mean, and obviously I'm photographing for my readers as well, so I like to take a wide shot to give them perspective of what they could miss if they weren't looking up, for example. But then I like to really hone in on detail as well, if it's mosaic or sculpture. So I like a zoom lens. And I think it's angle, like, you see people all lining up to take the same shot where it might be nicer around the corner between the trees, for example. I mean, if you're taking the Eiffel Tower, for example, it might be a little bit obscured, but that might be a bit more interesting than just taking that usual selfie shot.
Right.
Also, although it annoys me, sometimes when I'm taking a photo, especially if I have a tripod set up, people will stand behind me or sometimes actually go in front of me to take exactly to take exactly that angle. So that could be a good tip.
Well,
if someone looks like they're semi-professional.
Yeah, no, I do that
angle.
too. I don't stand in front of people, but if I see someone who's splashed out on an expensive camera, I'm like, this person is probably beyond a hobby for them. I'm going to go and see what angle they've taken. Usually I'll wait till they go, to be fair.
It's really annoying when you hear someone behind you and you realise they've got the camera above your head.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery, though.
I don't know, it's a bit annoying.
What about some more Paris secrets? What else have you discovered around? Something that you blogged about that people enjoyed?
Ooh,
You know what? Actually, I can tell you one of yours that I remember years ago. I found one of yours. You talked about the I think it's called the Hôtel Dieu, down by the Notre Dame.
Yes.
Remember that? So I remember reading that, let's say 2 years ago, and thinking, next time I'm around there, I'm going to do it. Because I really like the way you wrote it. You wrote something like, you wrote, pretend...
Act normal.
Act normal, like your aunt
around.
is sick. Yeah, see? So I remembered it really clearly. And then one day I found myself, very recently, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I found myself down there. And I Googled... your blog post and got it up, and I went and did exactly that. It was really cool. I'll link that below, everybody, as well.
I actually did that with some friends from Melbourne, and it was nighttime. And I said to them, I'll show you something cool. Just walk behind me, act confident, and don't say a word. Just be quiet. Yep. So we went in, and they saw the garden, and they gasped and loved it. And then we went upstairs as well, because you can actually see the Notre Dame if you sneak up to the top level. And then when we tried to get out, they'd locked the doors, and we were locked inside the hospital.
What?
Yes, and
so
we had
what
to
did you do?
I got the security guard to
Oh
let
my
us
God!
out.
You know, it's probably that exact story that irritated the security guard so much that he yelled at me as well when I was there.
Yeah.
So I went in there and he had a really weird accent in French, and he said something like, "Don't go up those stairs." And I was like, yeah, got it. And then when I was walking, it was when the heat wave was on here, and I saw the garden first. I was like, it was very dead. Everything, the whole city, all the leaves and everything died here in that heat wave. But I mistakenly went left first, and the guy like ran back. Was like, "Hey, I told you not to go up there." And I was like, whoa, so I'm so sorry.
I hope you didn't tell him I told you to go there.
Well, I should have. But then on the way out, I sort of profusely apologized. He said, look, this is a hospital where people still...
Yeah.
I think it was diabetes or something. They've got some specialty there.
Yes, there's a specialty. Yeah, I guess the thing is that when you are trespassing,
yeah,
you have to be respectful and
For
just
sure.
be quiet and go in, see what you want to see and get out again.
What else do you like? Do you like alleyways and stuff like that?
I love alleyways.
Any tips for finding them?
Well, you can look on Google Maps and just find little ones. There's a lot in the 11th arrondissement.
Oh, yeah?
Passageways
Right.
as well with businesses in them.
Yeah. And it's just a matter of walking through there. It's like Paris. If you pretend you own Paris, you get a lot more out of it, I think.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good to just wander and, be a flâneur, as they say, and just see what you find. If you see an alleyway, or just take that path and...
I went to in the Marais. I was obsessed, still am, with the Philippe Auguste wall, the 800-year-old wall that went around the city, and I went exploring it one day, finding sort of vestiges of it, remnants, and I found if you walk into a sort of small loans bank down on... I can't remember the name of the street, but one of the streets that goes right through the heart of the Marais. If you walk in there like you own the place, there's... maybe you've been there as well. I think...
I don't know.
No? Okay. So if you walk into this small loans bank and you go in like you own the place, turn right and you find a big tower of the old Philippe Auguste wall, and no one would ever know it's there because you have to go
Wow.
into the bank and then turn right in the courtyard.
I'll
and
check that out.
You should, yeah. And on the floor of the courtyard, they've marked in brick where the wall would have run. So you
Right.
just walk over that. But I don't know what's going on here, but we were obsessed with it, me and some friends, and we went and tracked it down. And every time I go there, I show some people sometimes, and I just think no one knows that this little treasure is
Years
here.
ago, I did compiled a walk for myself where you're not seeing the wall, but it's where the wall was or where the rubbish on the other side was. So,
Okay.
near Bastille and there's a little short street. It's the shortest street in Paris, and it's actually a few steps. And, so when you're going up, there's a Wallace fountain there as well. So when you're going up, would have been going up into the other side
Is
of
this
the
Rue de
wall.
Bar? The one right...
No. It's more down near Bastille, and
I'll have to look up that one.
there's a famous brasserie down there. I've forgotten the name.
We'll have to look that one up too. Did you do a blog post about that as well?
A long time ago.
Okay. It's all there, everybody. It's parisadele.com, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about Paris in general. Like,
Okay.
there's a whole world out there. You're from Melbourne/Brisbane. What brought you to a city like this?
Whoa. As I said, when I was 21, I backpacked around. I had a friend who lived here, so I used to come over back in those days on the hovercraft. That's showing me.
On the hovercraft?
Yeah, don't mention.
What, a real hovercraft?
Yeah,
Really?
there used to be a hovercraft that went across the channel.
What, like a floating... What is a hovercraft?
A hovercraft.
It's like-
Actually, I think it was invented by an Aussie, but it's like a big boat, and it just blows up with big giant floaties underneath,
Yeah.
and then skips across the water to France.
What, then you did that from England? That's how you got here?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would come over and sleep on his couch and discover Paris, and then I just kept coming back, and then life got in the way, and I had to buy a house and things like that. And then I started coming back again, and I don't know when the moment was, but it just spoke to me. There's just something that I feel that I'm home when I'm here, which I know is cliche, and so many people say stuff like that.
But maybe it's a cliche for a reason, because, that's like just saying I like Coca-Cola. That's a cliche, but everybody does it because,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe Paris just gives that feeling to people.
Yeah, I read somewhere once, which is not true, but the point in front of Notre Dame, which measures all the distances
Yep.
from Paris to
Like ground zero.
ground zero,
Yeah.
and point zero. And if you stand on there, you can make a wish that you'll always come back to Paris. And I couldn't this time because it's got fencing all around it.
Right.
And last year it had the Christmas tree on it. But normally that's my ritual, that as soon as I drop off my bags and I stand on there, and I could say without fail every time I cry.
Really?
Yeah, it's just, and I've taken people there and they'll start crying. I've taken people there and they cry with me as well.
That's
when I
lovely.
tell them that I stand here and hope to come back to Paris and cry. So I don't know. And I can stand at night, especially on a bridge, any bridge really, looking down the Seine, and I just feel some overwhelming emotions.
You know that the point zero that you're talking about. I think there'll be people who don't know what we're referring to here.
Yeah.
It's in the courtyard at the front of the Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's almost in front of the main door, but a little off to the left if you're facing the Notre Dame.
And there's
And
something
it's
there,
embedded
right?
in the courtyard.
Is it like a kind of a coppery thing, or is it
Yeah,
just
it's copper and it's a star shape.
That's right. Yeah. And now, unfortunately, because of the tragic fire at Notre Dame, that whole area is all fenced off. A lot of
Yes.
tourists are still sort of milling around there, taking
Yeah.
pictures of it. But I mean, those can't
Yeah,
be
it's
very nice
completely
pictures.
fenced off.
Take me back to when Notre Dame was burning down. How did you feel?
Oh, it was terrible. I was in Brasov in Romania, and I was in a courtyard, strangely enough, with my neighbours, and we were having a drink and talking. And then they were trying to say something Notre Dame, and my phone kept going off, and I just kept, could feel it buzzing in my pocket.
Yeah.
And then I went inside to see that the Notre Dame was on fire,
Yeah.
and all these messages from people around the world saying, "Have you seen what's happened?" It was devastating, unbelievable. I couldn't believe it.
I imagine if you cry when you stand on point zero, you must have been
There
in
were tears.
Yeah.
There were definitely tears.
And your readers are very what would be the word, invested. They love what you do, and I've read the comments. They're always so positive and lovely. Do you back and forth with them a lot? How did you cultivate such a relationship?
I don't know. I think it was just organic. I mean, it started because back in 2010, I had a horrible marriage breakup, and I was in a bit of a mess. And a friend recommended suggested I go to Paris, and I said, well, I'll be in a fetal position on the floor crying.
At point zero, in front of all the tourists.
It's cheaper to do it at home in my lounge room.
Right.
And I said, and what will I do when I get there? I'll still be sad. And she said, oh, you can get some moleskins and some pens and sit in a cafe and do what? But another friend suggested that I do a blog, and it would give me, show us what you're doing, take some photos. So I got a laptop and a digital camera, and started doing it. So first it was really just for friends. And I guess the more that I came here, I wanted to find more interesting things, off the beaten track for myself. And it just turned out that the people that follow me are Francophiles, but have also, most of them, been to Paris. And so are also looking for, different things to fill their days with.
Sure.
So it kind of happened organically, and they're chatty. I mean, there's no bad language or, nasty comments.
Yeah, just friendly
Everybody's
people.
really friendly, and it's a bit of a relief, when some websites.
Absolutely.
full
The
of
Francophile
anger.
community is a good community, I think.
Yeah.
Do you have any message you want to say to your readers? They might be listening.
Oh, hi guys! You're finally hearing my voice.
Because that's true, right? They wouldn't have heard your voice before.
never heard
Many of
my
them probably
voice.
don't know that you're Australian.
They've never seen my face. A lot of them don't know I'm Australian.
Right, we talked about this before. So
Yeah.
all your posts are in Australian English, right?
Yeah.
And do Americans ever comment on that?
Well, a lot of Americans, I think that I'm American. Some pick it up because of the spelling.
Yeah.
And sometimes because of the language, sometimes I might
You're right.
say something that's a bit Aussie. That
Right, fair dinkum, you
Fair
bloody
dinkum,
drongo,
mate,
that kind of thing. You know what? I've started going a little bit American when I write things. You know, because my phone autocorrects like the word favor with a U at
Oh,
the
I
end.
hate
It
that.
just makes it into FAVOR. And I'm like, I can
No,
live with
I
that.
purposely go back and change it.
Really?
Yeah.
I like to keep people on their toes. Yeah. Anyway, I want to end because time's absolutely run away, as it always does with a good conversation. I want to end on a very specific question. I'm going to put you on the spot. So imagine that for reasons unknown, the authorities come and they say, Adele, you're going back to Australia tomorrow. This is your last day in Paris. And you say, but why? What have I done? They say, it doesn't matter. And they say there's one condition as well. You have to spend your last day in one arrondissement of Paris. You cannot cross the border into another one. What do you answer and why?
It would be in the Marais, and it would be at Petit Fer à Cheval.
What's that?
It's the little horseshoe bar in Rue Vieille du Temple.
Oh, good street.
And-
Don't forget you got the whole day. You don't have to be in the bar the whole day.
Yeah, no, I would.
You
And I would make everyone come so I can have a party there. And
Right. Is that one of those bars that if you're walking down towards the water, it's on the left-hand side?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think I know this. I think I know which one you're talking about.
It's gorgeous. It's tiny. It's ancient. It was an old zinc bar. I mean, it's marble now, but
Right.
yeah.
Tell me more about it, or for the people who don't know it, what's so good about it?
It's very authentic. It's small. It's a great place to people watch because you can sit up at the bar. I mean, there is a restaurant out the back, but I like to sit at the bar. And you just watch people pop in, have a coffee, standing up and walk out. There's a man who comes in with his little dog and it sits up on the stool while he has a coffee.
Lovely.
And they have good food and it's just you can watch Paris go by.
It's a good street to people watch on
It's a
Via
great
du Temple.
street and it's a great bar. It's been, I don't know, I've been going there for, 20 years or something like that.
Great. Well, great answer. And I think we can finish on that. So once more, everybody, at parisadele.com, go and check our stuff. Follow on Facebook. Is that the best place for them to find you?
Yes.
Yes. Go and give it a like on Facebook and check that stuff out. Adele, thank you so much for coming into the
Thanks
studio.
for having me.
Okay, there you have it, Paris Adele. Go and follow her, check out some of her stuff. Who knows, maybe she'll put up a picture of me pretty soon and you'll be able to see what I look like too, in case you had no idea. But instead of Gmail, I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. Maybe you already saw this on my Instagram stories, but I got an email from a woman, Joanne. Her name's Joanne Appel. Appel? It's a Danish name, and she wrote up a blog post about Paris and France recommending my podcast. And I figured, heck, maybe there's some Danish listeners out there. I'll read what she wrote. But spoiler alert, she wrote it in Danish. So if you don't speak Danish, you're not going to understand what I say for the next 30 seconds. But I don't speak Danish either. So let's have a try. You ready? Podcast om Paris. I should say, I speak Swedish. So I might be able to get away with this a little bit. Let's have a go. And I'm going to do a Danish accent too. For några månader sedan följde jag över the Eiffel Tower som ett podcast om Paris. So you can kind of follow along, huh? I podcasten lärde du en massa om den franska historia, kultur och andra spännande ting. Det är inte en massa kände människor med som selvfølgelig allesammen har nöjet med Paris att göra. Jag kan klart anbefalla det här podcast. Visst du älskar Paris. Det föregår förresten på engelsk så alla kan vara med. What do you think? Does that sound Danish to you? Joanne, if you're listening, thanks for writing. Who knows what that was all about? I hope it was nice words that you wrote. But there you go. I'll read out Gmail in different languages. Why not? Why not? Someone send me something in Japanese. I'll give it my best shot. Now, let's get on to the sponsor of today's episode. There are a few more emails, but I'll save them. Remember, if you want to have your email read, just go via the contact form on the eiffeltower.com. And, before I get into the Fat Tire stuff, I started a newsletter. So if you want to find the newsletter, the easiest way to find it is to scroll down on any page on the eiffeltower.com and it'll be a pop-up window. Not very intrusive if you ask me. About halfway down the page, it'll say, hey, you want to sign up to the newsletter? And then you should do it. And I'll send out emails with little extra tidbits and, bits and pieces, this and that, and keep you in the loop when there's cool stuff coming up. But beside that, Fat Tire sponsored this episode. They sponsored all the Thursday episodes for this summer. That's why you're getting 2 episodes a week, so you can thank them. The best way to thank them is to book a tour with them. That's what I'd do. If you've been listening carefully over the past 3 months, you'll see that I've been doing a bunch of their tours, including probably my favorite, I think, of all was the full day, well, it wasn't full day, it was like a half-day bike tour around Versailles that I talked about last week, Marie Antoinette and her Hamlet. Wonderful. You can do things like that. So it's not just cycling. You can do walking tours. You can walk around Montmartre. You can walk around the Latin Quarter. You can go down to the catacombs. There's a bunch of different things. But the idea is that when you're in Paris, you book one of their tours and you'll get a 10% discount off if you mention the Eiffel Tower. How do you do that? Well, you get to the page where you're paying, and at the bottom left of that checkout, it'll say, have you got a little discount code? And you'll say, well, yeah, I do. It's Eiffel, EARFUL. And you put it in and then bam, 10% gets taken off. So check that out. If you want to get a bit more of an idea, you can go on my Instagram page where I've saved stories from most of their trips. So right under where it sort of says a little explanation about who I am and what I do, you'll see saved stories like Versailles and Giverny and Monet's Garden. You can click on them and have a little bit of a look through to get a taste or an appetite for the kind of tours that Fat Tire does. So once again, I highly recommend that you do that. If you come to Paris, it's a great way to see the city and get a taste for it, especially if you've never been here before. And it's all really nice to do on a bicycle because you get there quicker. So please check that out. As for me, I'm off for now. I'll be back on Monday with another episode. Go and sign up to the newsletter, book a tour with Fat Tire, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Au revoir.